Greetings, everyone. My name is Natalie Evans Harris, and I am Executive Director for the Black Wealth Data Center. We're excited to be here today with this webinar to introduce some of our new features that just recently deployed, including our Black Wealth Indicators tool. So for those that are new to the family, we're excited to introduce our platform overall to you. And for those that have been with us for a little while, you'll get to see some of the new features. To kick things off while we wait for folks to join, if you could go to menti.com using this code, we're just going to ask you a couple of questions up front to help us understand who's on the webinar and what you hope to get out of this conversation. We try to keep this as interactive as possible. So if you could take the time to do that, and we'll get things started in about 5 minutes. Welcome, welcome. For those that have just joined us, my name is Natalie Evans Harris, and I'm Executive Director of the Black Wealth Data Center. We've asked folks to log into menti.com using this code and answer a couple of questions for us before we kick things off. We're looking forward to this conversation today. All right, it looks like we've had a good number of people join us. So how about we get things started? Once again, Natalie Evans Harris, Executive Director of the Black Wealth Data Center, and we're excited to have everyone join us today. For those that are new to the family, you'll have the opportunity to see some of the exciting features around our platform, and in particular, a new feature that we've just launched called a Black Wealth Indicators tool. For those that have been to these webinars before or are familiar with our platform, we're excited to show you the new features and some of the things that we've been thinking since we launched in early September. For those that haven't already gone to menti.com and used the code, please do so. There's 1 or 2 questions that we ask audience participants to answer to help us drive the conversation. So let's talk a little bit about the Black Wealth Data Center. and why we're here and why we exist. When you think about what it's like to use data today, it can often be very complicated. There's a number of data sets available to you, a wealth of data available. But when you want, when you want to use it to drive decision making, that can be very difficult. Oftentimes because the data is siloed, it's inaccessible, it's just challenging to use when what you really want to do is focus on the policies and the programs. So this is one of the use cases that has driven the work that the center does and is centered around. What we're really focused on is really shaping how can we help those that are in nonprofits, those that are in the government, those that are in philanthropy, and any other industry that wants to use data to be able to get to the heart of the data that they need and do so in a way that is low lift, easy to pull from, and easy to share and transfer knowledge to other things. So we're excited to see so many different people that are on this call. And if what we're showing you resonates, let us know. If we're missing something, let us know. We do use a very user-driven process, and so we're regularly looking for feedback and looking for opportunities to engage with the folks that we want to see use this data most. So if you could, in one word, tell me how can data help accelerate racial wealth equity? That'll help us understand where you sit with the use of data to advance your missions. As you can tell from our platform, we look at wealth across several topics, and oftentimes the folks that come to these calls are focused in one particular area or another. Yes, and funding is a big one. So what's great about some of these answers is that there's a recognition that there's a relationship between that if we really want to advance racial wealth equity and address some of the challenges, there's this relationship between what we experience and then how do we solve problems in a really scalable way. And data can help with addressing some of those problems. Data creates that transparency, increases that knowledge, and helps to educate around what is actually happening at the community level. And what we've done at the center is really look at that from a racial lens. If we really recognize that equity and inequities are influenced by the color of your skin or where you come from, and not just, and in addition to being your communities and not just a factor of existence, then we need data to be able to tell those stories. And so what we want to do is we want to be able to take the data that's available out there, public data sets, federal open public data sets, and provide it to you from a racial lens. So what you'll see on our platform is that we don't just provide you Census American Community Survey, we provide you visualizations that help you see what does debt accumulation look like for the Black community, for Asian households, for Hispanic households, for white households across several factors, so that you can not only see what is happening with debt across a time frame, but also how it varies and how it differs based upon race. It's a nuance. And when we have that information, it helps us to be able to understand where do we want to fund? Where do we want to improve housing? How do we want to increase access to capital and provide that living wage? It helps you to create justifications that not only solve the problems for an individual or one particular lived experience, but it actually helps you to create scalable solutions that can apply to many. That's our hope, our dream, our vision, and goal for where data can solve and support you in driving some of these solutions. So as I said, where the Black Wealth data sits is with people and organizations who want to address racial wealth equity and need the data in order to be able to do it and need support in getting access to that data. We sit in the middle to support your access to that data. We are not a think tank. We do not have the solutions. We do not have the answers, but what we do have are the skills to transform the data into a way that you can have and develop and solution around what the data is showing. And we want to be a partner in that work in whatever way can support the field. Because when you look at the amount of data that's available, and these are just, 14 different data sets out there that talk about wealth equity from different lenses, it's a lot of work to be able to identify commonalities, solutions, and get answers to some very complex questions from a racial lens. So what we do, we provide the Racial Wealth Equity Database, which takes all of those data sets you saw on that previous screen and brings it into one place. And brings it into one place and allows you to access it through visualizations that are interactive and what we hope are easy to understand. That's what our users have told us to this point. And what our charge is, and what we've been asked to do and funded to do, is to use the database to increase access to wealth data. So RWED, which is what we call it, the Racial Wealth Equity Database, contains 14 accessible data sets today, with an additional 20 plus data sets on our back end that we're working through. And we're always looking and thinking about, what are the data sets that are missing? How do we continue to refine the data sets that we have? Because it's important to us that we're not only increasing and providing access to data, but it's high quality data. It's the kind of data that you can trust, so that when you go to a visualization and you pull that down, you have the citations, you have the understanding of what it means, and can understand the best ways to use it or not. We're a data center, so this is at the core of what we're about. And then what do we want to do with that data? Well, we want to recognize where the gaps are and then work with the field to address those gaps. That's what we talk about when we say advancing the state of Black wealth data. What we recognize is that there are gaps. And if we want to tell a robust story, then we need the data to be able to do that. So when you look at a map and you see that when we want to talk about race, 20 states in our nation are missing enough data to be able to participate in that conversation, that's a problem. And so if we want to be able to tell strong stories through data, then we need to work with the field, work with cities and states and organizations to make that data available and accessible, to participate in the conversation. And we can't forget that at the end of the day, the data should be about fueling data-driven solutions. So while we are not here to provide the solutions for the communities, we're here to work with you to be able to provide those solutions. And so if there's data that's missing, if there's a question that's not quite answered, then we want to be able to work with you to make it happen, to get the answers to those questions, and to make sure that the solutions are scalable and as impactful as possible. Here's what one of our Explore data pages looks like. It's taking data from the Survey of Consumer Finances and presenting it to you in a way that you can see what is happening around average assets for households by race and ethnicity and over time. You'll see what is happening. You'll see that assets have increased for some, have leveled out for others, and decreased. And race plays a factor in that. But more than that, you're also able to see, where does education play into it? Where does sex and where does age play into the conversation and influence what is happening nationwide? And you can do this across assets, debt, net worth. And when you go to our page, you can go from a national level down to the city level and be able to see these things, understand not just what does it look like to accumulate assets or accumulate debt, but what type of debt is being accumulated. Amin will be able to walk you through some of this as we go into the demo in 2 seconds. So what are we excited about now? We're excited about our Black Wealth Indicators tool. Because what we've recognized is that if we want to be able to tell the stories, and we want to truly be able to understand what wealth looks like at the community, at the county and community level, we need to start to bring these things together. So what the Black Wealth Indicator tool does is it brings indicators and data from across the 6 topics that we present through the platform, brings it together into one holistic picture. And you can do a county to nation comparison or a county to county comparison. It's whatever's most informative for you. And this is the first of the many tools that we hope to bring to the platform that helps you to be able to access and understand what the data is saying in as light a lift away as possible. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Ami. If you have any questions, thoughts, please feel free to put them in the chat. And I believe there's a place in Mentimeter for you to be able to do that as well. Ami Amin is our lead data scientist. I am going to stop sharing now so that you can take over, Ami.
Thank you, Natalie. And share my screen. All right, can you see what I'm sharing? Okay. So, hi everyone, my name is Ami, and I'm the lead data scientist here at the Black Wealth Data Center. And as Natalie said, we are very excited for the launch of our new Black Wealth Indicators tool. And I'm going to show you how you can access and use the new tool on our platform. So currently we are on the Black Wealth Data Center's homepage. And if we scroll down, we can see a new feature for the indicators tool where it says, what does Black Wealth look like in your county? And so this new feature is bringing together 4 unique data sets at the county level across our 6 topic areas to give you an intersectional view of Black wealth. Here we can enter one county to compare it to the national statistic for various wealth indicators, or we can enter 2 counties to compare them to each other. So we'll start by entering one county. Let's look at Wayne County in Michigan, where the city of Detroit is located. And then click Generate Graph. So this will take us to the new Black Wealth Indicators tool. So immediately underneath the county search bar, we can see 4 graphs that compare Wayne County, Michigan in green to the national statistic in blue. These 4 charts at the top are what we call context variables, which are meant to give us some background knowledge on Wayne County across different topics. For example, Wayne County has a much larger Black population percentage compared to nationally, 38% versus 13%. The Social Vulnerability Index represents a county's ability to respond to hazards. So at 0.87, Wayne County is close to high risk. There's no national level indicator for social vulnerability. So where there is insufficient data like this on the tool, you'll see this noted. And also displayed for county context is the number of business formations and the median home value for the county overall. So if we scroll down further, we can see 4 wealth indicators. Let's look at a few of them. The first graph on the left shows us 28% of owner-occupied housing units in Wayne County are Black owner-occupied. And on the right, we see that the median income for Black households is $33,000, which is $10,000 less than nationally. We also see on the bottom left that the percentage of Black households in poverty in Wayne County is 31%, which is almost 10% higher than nationally. If we scroll down again, there are 4 more indicators on different topic areas. The bachelor's degree attainment rate for Black individuals on the top left shows us it is 15% in Wayne County, which is 8% less than nationally. And on the bottom left, the percentage of Black households with broadband internet access in Wayne County is 76%, which is 7% lower than nationally. And on the top right, the PPP dollar amount received by Black businesses per Black capita is slightly higher than nationally. And PPP here represents the Paycheck Protection Program. So these are just a few examples of what's shown on our indicators page. And after seeing these statistics, I can immediately see that I would be interested in digging deeper into the data for a couple of them, either in at a more granular level, or seeing data disaggregated by other races and ethnicities. For example, I would be interested in digging deeper into household assets and the higher poverty rate based on this chart here. So we can do that by going to the Explore data pages on our website that Natalie showed quickly on one of the slides. Each indicator card here has the name of one of our Explore data pages on the bottom left. So as you can see, for Black households and poverty, the topic area shown here is assets and debt. And if we click on this bottom left of any of the cards, it will take us to the Explore data page for that topic area. And if you've never looked at these Explore data pages before on our site, they provide users with an interface to our Racial Wealth Equity database, RWED. And the Explore data pages draw insights from 15 different data sets in our database and feature data visualizations at the national, state, and local level. And the current topic areas are assets and debt, which I'll show you in a second. We also have business ownership, education, employment, home ownership, and population. So going back to Wayne County, I'll jump to the local level on the Assets and Debt Explore data page, where we show county and zip code level maps where available. And the information here is coming from the American Community Survey published by the US Census Bureau. So here, going back to Wayne County, we can zoom in to Wayne County in Michigan on the map. And when we hover over the county, it shows the data points we saw in the indicators page, poverty rate, and median income, but disaggregated by more races and ethnicities. And we also see additional information here showing information on occupied housing units and income spent on rent. So as you can see, this level of granularity in the map helps you when comparing county to county in further detail, or using the additional stats zone. So for example, if we wanted to look at the countywide median income in Wayne County and see which households fell below that median, we can see here that the median income for Black households and Hispanic or Latino households falls below the countywide median income. Another way the Explore data pages can help you drill down further is if you're interested in looking at data at the zip code level. So we could switch this map instead to zip code. And then I can use the zip code filters on the right to select just a few zip codes within Wayne County. So I'll click Show Zip Code Filters and enter zip codes pertaining to Wayne County. I'll select a few for comparison.
Ami, while you're waiting for the site to load, there was a question about how often the data is updated.
Yes, so we try to reflect the most recent year of all data, unless for data methodology reasons, and refresh when the data is updated. So when a new data set is released. For example, when the new ACS 5-year estimates are going to be released, we will have a plan to update and show that on the site within weeks. And so if you say subscribe to our newsletter, I think, for example, you should be able to see updates on when new data sets are refreshed on our site. We also have some data sets pertaining to COVID or like weekly unemployment insurance claims, and those regularly refresh like COVID numbers on a daily basis, weekly data on a weekly basis. So going back to just showcasing additional features with Explore Data, I've entered a few zip codes related to Wayne County, and you can see the whole map is now filtered to just those zip codes. And the table below the map is filtered, which allows for easier comparison. And we can see the same data points, percentage of households in poverty or median income, disaggregated by race at the zip code level. We can also see this information by hovering again. And as you can see in the table, for example, the white median income heavily varies based upon zip code. There's one more quick feature I want to highlight in these Explore Data page maps that allow you to interact with the data. I'll remove the zip code filter tool. And then I will switch our map back to the county level. So one also useful feature on this page is we can filter these maps by the indicators shown. So for example, here we can filter the whole country to counties with a percent below poverty rate, or to a certain percent below poverty, or to a certain Black population percentage. So I'll do to around 20% here. So this will filter the entire map to just counties with a Black population percentage above 20%. And as you can see, Wayne County is still selected since it contains Detroit. And the table below is automatically filtered to just the counties highlighted. So there is an immense amount of information on each of these Explore Data pages to discover. In addition to more local maps, we also have state and national level data. I'll just quickly call out on assets and debt. We feature state level data on assets, debt, and net worth using the survey of income and program participation. And this data can be filtered by state, race or ethnicity, education, or sex. And then at the national level, we also feature data from the Survey of Consumer Finance, disaggregated by race. And you can filter to many different types of assets or debt, like education loans, disaggregated by race. And finally, Natalie also highlighted this, but we also show national level data from the Survey of Consumer Finance over time. So I won't go into all this data for now, but this is one example of how you might take what you see on this indicators tool by clicking on the bottom of any of these cards to then dig deeper on our Explore Data pages. So yeah.
Sorry, before you transition, there was one question around downloading the data. So can you show them how to download on the Explore Data page as well as on the indicator page? And can you do it, instead of doing it from assets and debts, can you do it with the social vulnerability index? Because somebody also asked about the SVI.
Okay. Yes. Thank you for checking. Okay. I will open up our homeownership page. And let me, scroll down to, here is one visual related to the social vulnerability index. And in this visual, for example, we show the relationship between county level percent Black owner occupied housing and the social vulnerability index. And to show you how you were able to download, let's say you wanted to filter, I'm just picking some random counties here. and you wanted to download this data for certain counties, you can click download, which is in the bottom right of any of these visualizations, and click format. So if we wanted to download it as an image, we can click that here, and it should download as a PNG. You can also download it as a PDF on any of these visuals. And then I will show you also on the indicators page again. If you want to download the data that's shown here, you can scroll to the bottom of the page and click download all. And it should automatically download all the data in a PDF. Oh, I guess you can't see the PDF that popped up for me, but it'll download all these charts at once for you for the county that you selected. And just for the question about social vulnerability, also the additional visualizations related to social vulnerability are found on our homeownership Explore data page. So if we still have time, now that I've given you a glimpse of the indicators tool, I'd love to hear if anyone watching has a county they are interested in, or just the county that you're currently living in or working in. If you want to put a county name in the chat, we can use that tool. We can use the indicators tool to compare that county to Wayne County. I don't think I can see the chat. So if someone can help me out.
Oh, there are so many counties, but Rita got in first, so we're gonna go with Hillsborough.
Okay. Perfect. All right. So I will scroll back to the top of the page and now enter Hillsborough. Did we?
And we can also put it in Sussex County, Delaware. As the
Okay.
site.
Oh, okay, cool. And Hillsborough County, was that in Florida or New Hampshire?
Oh, that's a good question, Rita.
I'll put in Sussex to start.
Oh, Florida. She said Sussex County, Florida. I'm sorry,
Okay.
Hillsborough, Florida.
Cool. Yeah. Perfect. So now we've put in 2 counties at the top of the page, and I'll click generate graphs again. Perfect. So now you can see that Sussex County is in green and Hillsborough County is in brown, and we can see the data is now comparing, the charts are now comparing each of those 2 counties to each other. So for example, we could see the social vulnerability index for Hillsborough County is much higher than for Sussex County. The number of business formations for the county overall is also much higher for Hillsborough County. The median income for Black households is about the same for both counties, which is interesting, as well as the percent of Black households in poverty. We do see about 4% more Black owner occupied units in Hillsborough County. And then this is interesting. The bachelor's degree attainment rate for Black individuals is much higher in Hillsborough County than Sussex, and also the PP dollar amount received by Black businesses per Black capita. So these might be 2 things. I don't know a lot about each of these 2 counties, but I think you could potentially, if you were looking at 2 counties and wanted to dig more into like what are the programs or different things in these 2 counties that lead to this discrepancy, this would be a really great starting place for you to understand the state of these 2 counties. So unless there were any more things for me to call out, again, this is the Black Wealth Indicators tool. You can access it from the homepage or under Explore Data at the top of our site. And I will now hand it to our Director of Product, Jay Henderson, who will give you a bit more context about the site and our new release this month.
Yeah, thanks, Amity. So when we were producing this tool and the site overall, we really took inspiration from what we consider to be both the past and present. And when I say that, I just want to call out that our style of visualizations were actually directly taken from W.E.B. Du Bois's style Many people don't know this about him, but in 1900 at the Paris Exposition, he and his team actually released data visualizations that explained institutionalized racism to the world for what would arguably be the first time. And so we really took inspiration from some of that work and from his data portraits. And so all of these graphics that you see here are in that same style. So it's a real kudos and kind of nod to understanding the past. And when I talk about understanding the present, I mean, you all, I mean, the practitioners who we've spoken with since we released the site, but even before that, as we spoke to people and gathered feedback, one thing that we heard was, the Explore data is great. It goes into 5 different topics, but people really wanted to have a single place where they could see indicators of wealth that was related to their local location. And so that's really what we are doing here with the Black Wealth Indicators, is bringing together all of these different data sets into a centralized location to give practitioners that view, that kind of master dashboard of all of these different indicators within one page. And so there are a few other things, taking inspiration again from the present and from the work that you all are doing, there are a few other things that we wanted to make sure that we also equipped you all with. So for example, we have the resource library, because we know that in order to allow people to do their best work, it's not just data. Generally, we heard feedback that folks within the racial wealth equity space wanted to hear about what other people were reporting on, what other people were doing. And so we created the the resource library so that you could have access to some of these articles, white papers, and case studies for other folks who are within the field. And we actually made this keyword searchable. We have just shy of 100 resources at this time, and we are always adding to resources. So if you search for keywords and you find that you do not find a resource, if you scroll to the bottom of this page, there is actually an option a little bit further to submit a resource to us. And so you can go ahead and put that on our radar just in case we don't have something. Just to quickly show you how this resource library works, if we go and we want to search for the word Black, for example, we'll type it in, we'll push the little search icon there, and then this will pull any resource that we currently have within our database for the word Black. And then we could filter from the newest resource to the oldest, or the oldest to the newest. And then we could actually drill down further and see what are just the articles, for example, that we currently have pertaining to the word Black. So again, we're always adding to this. And if we want to click out, we would click back on that X button in the search bar, and that will actually take us back to the primary site. And then the other feature of the site that I want to point out really quickly is our news page. So when we think about news, you actually want to go to the About Us section, and that's where you'll find news. And our news page houses a few different things. First, of course, any announcements that we have for big releases. So for example, this release just happened. So we wanted to make sure that we put that on people's radars. But if you scroll down, you'll actually see updates to the platform, any new data releases that we have. So you'll know what the latest and greatest is. So for example, Ami mentioned the ACS data is going to be coming out very soon. So as soon as we have that within the platform, you'll be able to go here and find out, what is the latest data set that we have. And then of course we have any kind of press and BWDC in the news. So these, for example, go out to different podcasts and different articles. And then finally, any press releases that the team is putting out for folks to read here as well. And you can read those, you can click into that and read those directly within the site. And to wrap up kind of, my piece of this, I would say we are always looking for feedback. We really are building this with you all in mind. So your considerations, your feedback, we're always open to hearing that. So please, I'm sure that someone has contact information that they'll put up in a little bit, but please, let us know. Let us know what's working for you, what's not working for you. You'll always have kind of an ear. Oh, there he is, right on time. You always have an ear with BWDC. So thank you.
Thank you, Jay. You don't want to give them your cell phone number so they can just reach out to you directly?
Nah, that's okay.
All right, let me go back to sharing my screen. Oh, you got to stop sharing, Ami. There we go. All right, I hope everyone can see my screen. So I hope that getting to see both the walkthrough of our Explore Data page as well as our new indicator tool and getting to hear a little bit more about overall our thought processes and inspiration behind the platform was informative. Jay, Ami, myself, and probably about 10 other people behind us have worked hard at this for quite some time. So when we launched in September, it was joyful and prideful to see the reaction that we've received so far. We wanted to create space for folks to tell us what you're thinking. So based upon what you've seen so far, how can BWDC support your work? As we regularly say internally and externally, our goal is to be a go-to resource. So it's important to us that we understand how we can best support your work with data so we continue to evolve and continue to be supportive and additive to the field. Somebody mentioned that supporting you would be having county to county in my state. Interesting. Ami, do you feel like we do that?
Yeah, I think currently on the Explore Data pages, you can look at, you can zoom into the state level and just compare county to counties. Or on the indicators page, you can look at 2 specific counties only. But if there are more ways you want to look at it, please throw in suggestions in the chat.
Yeah, play with it a little bit more. And if there's something additional we could do for your county to county comparisons, an additional factor, an additional view, the visualizations are versions 1 of the, well, probably like 3 or 4 or 5, but are the first ones that we've published. And so we are always looking for different ways to present the information. This could help in our advocacy to eliminate the racial home ownership gap. Excellent. The homeownership page is probably one of my favorites because it's not only talking about how home values and mortgage rates, but also looking at it from the influence of the community as a whole. That's why we brought in things like the Social Vulnerability Index. If there are other things we could bring in to tell a more robust story and help with advocacy, by all means, let us know. Are there demographics on sex, age, marital status? Yes. So where the data collects it, we do provide it. So you'll see when we presented the assets and debts page that you did see you could filter based upon sex and age and education. Marital status, you will not see too much across the platform, but that's primarily because the data just isn't collected that way. And we're not comfortable enough with imputation methods to be able to just start adding it. Informing potentially in the discrepancy on home appraisal values based on race. I was just having a very in-depth conversation on home appraisal values and how do we present data about about appraisers in particular on the platform in an informative way. So if you have thoughts on that, would love to hear them. Comparing home ownership rates and housing costs. Oh, interesting. Ownership rates and housing costs. So we have some work that we're doing with the National Neighborhood Indicators Project. One of the tools that I believe we're getting ready to fund development on actually looks at this. I'll have to go look at the proposal again, but we may have some things coming out on that. If you have additional information to share, we are always taking it in. Assist with our equity and engagement department as it prepares to determine where gaps are in the community. Yep. That is the exact use case that we're hoping to fulfill with this. Program justifications and funding, not just data, but solutions, best practices. That's a funny one for us. And I will tell you, not funny. That is one that we go back and forth on a lot internally because we are a data center. And so we're here to present the data. We are not experts in home ownership or experts in entrepreneurship. We are experts in the data. And so we have the ability to analyze the data and tell you what the data is saying. And we are looking to, in future releases, provide more of that contextual information. But the example I often give is that You will not see on our site that we say redlining is bad. We know it is, but you won't see on our site that redlining is bad. But what you will see on our site is the ability to look at the impact of redlining across neighborhoods. We'll be able to tell you what the data, we'll be able to show you the data and what this data is saying. But we are here to participate in solutioning conversations, fueling those, catalyzing those. But I think there's a fine line we still need to tread quite transparently around the development of solutions and practices in policy areas. That differs when it comes to the data. I'll do solutioning and practicing around the data all day long, as will it be. And how our clients' mortgage interest rates compare on the local and national level. HMDA data. We do have HMDA data in there, so you should hopefully be able to do that. If that's not transparent on the home ownership page, let us know. Thank you so much. I think this is the last question. What would you like to see from the Black Wealth Data Center in the future? You kind of answered that with the last one as well, but if there's anything we haven't talked about that you would like to, here's where you can plug it in. Nothing? We got it all back? We got it all right? Climate related data. That's a good one we talk about a lot. And health outcomes data. Yep. Where one lives matters. That's interesting. So one of the reasons, at least for me, that we haven't quite put climate or health outcomes data onto the site is not because we don't have it. We actually have it in our repository. We haven't figured out the best way to present it and align it with wealth. But I like the where one lives matters, because that means there might be a place for health under our home ownership section. And for climate, I believe climate should be everywhere. But we can think about, and I'd love to ideate around the best ways to display climate and tie it to wealth. Appraisal district valuation versus market rate sales, seeing overvaluation in gentrifying areas. Interesting. I wonder, we'd have to do homework on where that data would be. If you have senses of where that appraisal data lives. We're also interested in private data sources and state and local data sources, definitely. So if you have data sets that you know of that we don't have on our site, by all means, let us know, because that appraisal data is something that's come up often, and we need to do the homework to figure out where that data lives, so that we can bring it in. Is there a way to choose the 7 counties permanently and compare them with state and national average across all indicators? Oh, we're getting fancy now. So the answer to that is not today. One of the things we are looking at for future release is how do we allow for user profiles, which would then allow you to do things like this. I don't know if you can do exactly this, but things like this come into the way, because we fully recognize that one of the ways that data is of value is if you have certain things that you're always going to be looking at, that you can log in and see the view that you need across all the topics. So look out for an upcoming release where you'll be able to do a little bit more personalization.
There's also a great question from Sherry in the chat.
Oh,
Since small business loans are not tracked by race, have you found a good way to extrapolate the % of Black small business loans?
Oh, somebody must have fed you that question. We did. And you'll be able to see the way that we've attached race to small business data on our entrepreneurship page. I'm going to let Ami tell you a little bit about how we were able to overcome the fact that race is not. Do you know it, Ami? Harsha tells it really well.
Wait, are you talking about the 504 and 7A data? Is that what Harsha? Okay. Yeah, so that is also one of the problems that we have heard from a lot of different users in the community, that we don't have full coverage of race and ethnicity data on the small business loans. So one thing that we've done on our business ownership Explore data page is show 7A and 504 loan amount and loan amount over time at the state level paired with demographic data from the American Community Survey. And so you can look at comparing areas based on their Black population percentage with the amount of small business 7A and 504 loans that were granted in those geographic areas. We also show for the PPP, we show this data at the county and zip code level. But I think the underlying problem of not having the exact amount of SBA data by race is definitely a administrative problem, but also a research area in which we would be excited to support in the future.
Okay, any other questions on the chat? Sorry, I cannot see the chat when I'm sharing my screen.
There was a question about food deserts or a suggestion to include food deserts as well.
Okay,
And that's all.
thank you. This has been a lively conversation, and yes to adding logins for users. We are actually aiming for that to be a part of our next major release in first quarter of 2023. So we see that as an imperative, and we are looking to have that added with some abilities for users to customize their experience on the platform. So who knows how many Black businesses receive the most popular types of loans from the SBA? That is actually, that's why I said that question must have been fed, because that's the question that we use to wrap this up, because the answer is no one. And no one knows it because it's not collected. So one of the things that we aim for with the platform is not just to present data that is available by race, but to also work with the field to be able to improve collection by race in ways that'll help us to better understand wealth accumulation opportunities. I want to thank you all for participating, for joining, for listening. I hope you all are as excited about the work and the center as we are. We love what we're doing. We want to keep doing it. So we want to keep being additive and helpful to the work of all of you. There's multiple ways to reach out to us, info@blackwealthdata.org. You can tweet, we can link in, you can join our newsletter and connect with us. We're always here to partner. We're always here to network. We're here to support. And I want to thank you for your time. Bye, everyone.